macroeconomic equation, the only solution for a low unemployment rate, the only way you can increase the population of labor availability is migration.
Meet Angelique Brunner, founder and CEO of EB-5 Capital, a $1 billion real estate investment firm that has created over 35,000 US jobs and served more than 1,900 clients across 75 countries. With 30 years of experience in capital markets and real estate, Angel's leadership has made EB-5 Capital a global leader in the EB-5 program, driving both investment and opportunity. I'm Shai Zamanian, founder of the American Legal Center. I'm going to act as your EB-5 guru, curating the best content of EB-5 so you don't have to spend time scouring the internet looking for that. I'm going to introduce you to all the established players in the EB-5 game and why they're important. I'll help you analyze, ask all the important questions about the EB-5 process so you have actionable takeaways to apply it to your EB-5 visa journey. Our offices are based in downtown Dubai. We are a team of US licensed lawyers and are your active guides through the EB-5 process. We help you gather all your documents for your application, find the best projects to invest in, and coordinate your filing with Washington, D.C. We have filed the most EB-5 applications from the region and have the experience and breadth of knowledge to ensure your success. Now let's get started. So here's the deal. Angel, it's very difficult for me to give you the introduction you deserve. There is so much that you've brought to the EB-5 community. I think perhaps we can start from the very beginning, before you even embarked on EB-5. So I think 2007, when was the ripe time when you hit the scene. Prior to that, before even getting entrenched in EB-5, you had $3 billion of financing towards development projects. Do you want to talk to us about kind of what was your springboard to then launch you into EB-5?
The main thing that launched me to EB-5 was getting into real estate. And I got into real estate because I got to Washington, D.C. I was in venture capital. It was my dream job. I was the first Black female in venture capital from New York to Atlanta. I was thrilled. I grew up in Silicon Valley. I could not be more excited about what I was doing. But I was living in Washington, D.C. In Washington, D.C., if you've ever been there, it's really the tale of two cities. It's a federal city and it's a local city. The federal city, everyone knows, they see it on TV. It's the monuments, it's the museums, the Smithsonian's, it's the Capitol, it's the White House, it's the seat of federal government for one of the most powerful countries in the world, the longest running democracy in history. And then it's a local city that only got its first mayor in 1972. And the local city, when I moved there in 2000, was devastated from the riots of Martin Luther King's assassination. And it was so bad that we had one grocery store per 20,000 residents, and the suburbs had one grocery store per 9,000. So we had half as many grocery stores as the suburbs. And the communities were devastated. The entire city was a food desert. And when I asked people, why is this? They said, because of the riots. And they were talking about the 60s. And it was 2000. And quite frankly, the mayor was giving away beautiful brownstones for $1 if you could get a construction loan.
Where were we at the time?
I know. They would give them to you for $1 if you could qualify for a construction loan to redevelop them. And quite frankly, it was just a moral distraction. And I think people in this region would really understand that, because the government leadership here has underpinned the area greatly and has built an incredible foundation from sand, right? And so we didn't have that. We didn't have that. And it was literally just a moral distraction. And I felt like I'd gone to school as an economist and an urban planner. I had worked in communities, the first class of AmeriCorps, which is the domestic Peace Corps, and I had seen food deserts, and I knew that I could make a difference. I knew that I wasn't doing the work, and that the work needed me.
From dust to excellence. So for those viewers that are not fully aware, Angel's Regional Center, EB-5 Capital, one of the hallmarks or one of the things that you guys are known for is actually the development in Washington, D.C.
That's 45% of our portfolio.
That's amazing.
45%. We're responsible for 20,000 jobs in Washington, D.C. alone.
You know, I love having your team here, and we can dive into sort of the underpinnings of your projects. But when I have you, I want to talk about other things. So when you're doing the development, how do you counterbalance the need for progress and innovation versus concepts around gentrification and you know,
that's one of my favorite questions.
And respecting, you know, the neighborhood.
That's one of my favorite questions. So we are proud to say we're responsible for zero housing displacement. So what leads to the housing crisis in neighborhoods that are gentrified is actually the renovation of housing. If you put new housing into a neighborhood, then you can keep the rents down, because what drives up rents is a scarcity of housing. So the way you prevent scarcity of housing for the existing residents is you build new housing. You build new housing.
Okay, and for those that are that might not be aware, we're speaking about topics where you redevelop a neighborhood.
Yes.
And the rents are going up, and the current residents are having a hard time.
Yes.
So they have to then go elsewhere.
Yes. So that doesn't happen in our neighborhoods, because our neighborhoods, we are putting up housing in a former parking lot, converting a storage facility to housing, tearing down a Burger King and putting up 300 units, converting an abandoned warehouse into retail and jobs. So we're actually responsible for zero existing displacement, and we're just putting up new businesses with living wage jobs for the residents, housing that underpins the safety of a neighborhood, supports new retail. That's what we do.
Angel, is difficult
and grocery
question.
Stores. The most important thing is grocery stores.
And speaking in terms of grocery stores, I've got an example to ask you about that. Is some level of displacement sometimes okay? For example, in terms of, like, you know, if you've got a liquor store and now you've developed the area, and if that gets, you know, transferred over to a library or a public facility, is there any instances where displacement to some degree is okay, or is it something that we should really fight against?
No, we should not fight against. I'm very proud that we tore down a Burger King. I'm very proud that we tore down fast food and replaced it with market rate housing. I'm thrilled. And a grocery store. I would love to tear down all the fast food in these neighborhoods. I would not flinch to do that at all and replace it with healthy food options. Absolutely.
For what the public needs.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So one issue that's going on in America, and it's something that a lot of economists don't talk about, and it's this quiet, sort of lurking issue around commercial real estate when it comes to offices. So this is something that I've had my eye on specifically, as it's kind of this silent bubble, because you've got bigger groups with deep pockets that are sort of keeping this quiet. And what the problem appears to be is that post-pandemic, we are not in need of office space to the degree that we did previously. And for example, in New York City, you've got a lot of distressed offices, and now they're looking to convert some of them for private residentials. So are you seeing the same issue around commercial real estate? How is that affecting the underpinning of your underwriting? And is it okay to then flip some of these into residential? How do we deal with this issue?
Sure. Well, I actually think Dubai, we could probably learn something from Dubai. When you are in Dubai, there's an incredible mix between office and residential. They cohabitate here. I think we could learn more from cohabitation models like we see here.
Mixed use. Mixed
use, absolutely. So I agree with you. The commercial issue is its own pandemic in the United States. It's a challenge for every city, and we are going to have to find legitimate uses when the leases run off on some of these commercial spaces, because all of the employees are not coming back. They're not coming back. And it's not just the private sector we have the issue with. It's an issue with the federal government as well. We have federal government agencies that have not made coming back to the office mandatory, which compounds the issue for places like Washington, D.C.
Would you think the better outcome is for people to actually start making use of the offices again, or do you believe in a hybrid sort of model?
Whatever the new model is, it has to be sustainable.
Correct.
And I think there are a few things people have decided they will no longer tolerate in a post-COVID world. They will not tolerate a long commute. They will not tolerate spending so much of their life in a single space with the people they work with. They will not tolerate a 5-day-a-week work schedule.
Hostile work environments, all of it.
Absolutely.
We've graduated, for sure.
We've graduated beyond that. And so, I know people who will do meetings on Zoom where they used to go on planes, right? So we have, I'll say, discovered some things during COVID that we now want to normalize as humans. And the work environment has not yet bent to accommodate those changes. And we're going to have to find a way to exist, just like we found a way to accommodate the automobile, just how we found a way that people wanted yards instead of living, in the density of cities. This is a new way of being. This is a new chapter, and we're going to have to bend around it.
That degree of innovation evolving or falling to the wayside, that's something that America is absolutely known for. It's a place that both you and I have thrived.
Yes.
And if it wasn't for my upbringing there, I wonder what my life would actually be like.
You think your success trajectory would be different without the America portion?
Absolutely. We came from a war-torn nation. And I look back at some of the people that are entrenched in that. And I shudder to think what my life would have come. Mm-hmm. So in terms of, this leads me to this idea and concept of the greater American freedom and life. So post-COVID, this might not necessarily be the case in America, but abroad, we're seeing a lot of messages.
What are you seeing?
And these messages, which is interesting, what people believe does not necessarily translate into what is reality.
Okay.
Images of crime, looting, these sorts of things. If you actually look at charts and stats from independent institutes, they will tell you crime in America has gone down dramatically over the last decade. But these aren't the messages that we're getting.
No, the media, we don't have state-run media. And so
we don't have state-run media.
So they report whatever they want to report, and they report what sells. And I think clickbait. And I think, it's what sells. It's their algorithm, right? And the stories of hope and love and resilience don't sell.
They don't. In fact, would you agree with me that the American economy, surprisingly, even though there was so many talks of, there's a recession around the corner, we've been talking about this.
I know, we've turned the corner.
Seems like a decade.
No, we've turned the corner. We've turned the corner. The resilience of the American economy is the stuff of history books. It's the stuff of history books. And I think with the new advancements with AI and other things that we can credit Silicon Valley for, I think we're going to continue to see an extraordinary showing of productivity from America.
So the numbers are there in terms of companies and their projected outcomes, crime rates. If we're just basing it on the numbers,
yes,
it all seems pretty good.
That's right. And we see an extraordinary fabric of diversity that's not income-based, that it's just nationality-based. If you go and you look at our suburbs around Washington or our suburbs in California or our suburbs in Houston, they're some of the most ethnically diverse suburbs you could possibly imagine. They're not income diverse, but they're ethnically diverse. So they're safe, they're good schools, they're, multidisciplined professionals, everything you could want in a neighborhood.
But understanding that this is EB-5 Unplugged, and that we always keep it real, we're not always here to just shine light on the positive. So I want to take a few minutes to talk about the shortcomings, and that's okay to make your deductions and say these are ways that we can improve.
We have some structural deficiencies. We
Exactly.
have some, and I say structural because I think it's because of the way we govern that they're deficiencies.
There's two places that I want to turn your attention. One is the unemployment rate. As we previously just said, all the stats look great for America.
Yes.
The unemployment rate is record lows.
Yes.
In modern history, we're looking at...
There's only one way to solve for a low unemployment rate.
Do tell.
It's immigration.
Exactly. So I think really a part of the reason why we're seeing the unemployment rate so low, and tell me if you agree or disagree, is since we had the Trump administration come in, limit immigration and close the doors on international people, for example, H-1B workers and that sort of thing, were then forced to hire then strictly just U.S. people. So in a sense, it's sort of the numbers don't really reflect what they should be, understanding the landscape of America.
I think we have three challenges there that are leading to our low unemployment rate, which is only solvable by migration. That's the only way to solve that. In the economic equation, in the macroeconomic equation, the only solution for a low unemployment rate, the only way you can increase the population of labor availability is migration. You either have an input or you have inability to grow your economy. That's it. There's no other magic fixes. So we have a couple of issues. We have a dumbbell issue with immigration where we aren't allowing enough skilled workers in, H-1B issue, and we're not allowing enough low-skilled workers in to fill some of our jobs that Americans don't want anymore, right? So we have both issues in immigration. And then it's compounded by the fact that we continue to innovate. So we continue to have a high demand for high-skilled labor, right? High demand. And we have no supply because we don't have the migration and we have the systemic issue of sexism and racism in our STEM fields in education. So we're not producing a balanced set of STEM graduates, right? The women aren't there, the minorities aren't there. So we're not even harvesting our own talent.
That is definitely one thing, is harvesting our own talent. I think there's some arguments on the other side about skilled workers and the H-1B program. You're from the Bay Area.
Yes.
And this...
Proudly.
And this little pocket, so some people would say...
Little pocket of hope.
Oh my God, of amazing, beautiful, like everything.
Everything.
We're going to talk about Palo Alto and just what happens there in a minute, but...
Okay. It's in the water. It's in the water.
With Silicon Valley, they have been sort of under the microscope for some time in saying that they have been the ones that have been exploiting international labor. So when international workers, skilled workers, come through to Silicon Valley and take on these jobs, some of them are left in a desperate situation because the path to the green card is tough.
Well, there's no path. H-1B is not a path to a green card. And since we're being candid and honest, and you and I have a long-standing relationship, I am a public critic of the H-1B visa. I think it's an embarrassment. It has so many things wrong with it. I wouldn't preserve it for a day.
My father was beholden to this H-1B.
It's horrible. It's a stain on our immigration policy.
You're tied to a single employer.
You're tied to a single employer. Not only that, your spouse may not be able to work. If you get a promotion and your job changes, then your H-1B is not valid. It's a travesty. It's a travesty.
A lot of these skilled, amazing individuals that deserve to be wholly a part of our society in the U.S., they don't necessarily get promotions because the employer knows they're beholden. They can't go and seek employment elsewhere.
And they have no path to a green card.
They don't.
Which means they have no path to participation in the other great institution that we have, which is our democracy. So we lose out on that participation in our democracy. So the only people who lose with the H-1B is America. We're the losers.
You brought up intersectionality and how certain minority groups do really well. For example, out of Dubai, we've got Indian nationals that sort of make it to America with a green card in hand, hit the ground running. They do really well. But what we have also seen, aside from those demographics, is the disparity with the rich getting richer, poor getting poorer. Elon Musk is looking to become the first trillionaire in history. Why do you need all this wealth when you do have, pockets of America that require attention? Do you mind sort of giving me your take? I know it's a big topic, but I really want to pick your mind when it comes to this idea.
Well, we should probably focus in on some aspects of it because there's so many. I mean, our tax policy is a challenge. Our tax policy isn't fair in America. Our states' rights are an issue. No other country has to deal with the level of states' rights that we do. So we have no unification in education. We have no unification in benefits. We have no unification in public safety. I could go on. And because of those disparities, you have a favoritism that happens. And you get situations where places who try to pursue any level of parity or equality are really penalized for it. You can see it in what some folks like to call the liberal cities, right? Mm-hmm. The closer you try to get to equality, you're penalized because it's not a federal effort. It's a local effort, and equality shouldn't be local. Our structural issues, sadly, I think, date back to post-Civil War, where you were trying to preserve states' rights because you didn't have agreement on how we should move forward. And in that effort to preserve those rights, you created too much independence.
For the states.
For the states. And then you produced a situation where different places could advance at a different pace. And you didn't have a unified standard. So you had geographic favoritism, right? Like you had a reason why people might move to California because they might have different opportunities than they would in Missouri or
there's a different
Tennessee.
minimum wage in Massachusetts,
exactly,
versus Texas.
And there's a different cost of living, and I get that part. But we're at some point you have to acknowledge globalization and that it's in the nation's best interest. It's almost at a national security level that we have a better level of education of everyone. You have a better level of skilled worker. You have better access to retraining and reshoring. At some point, you have to accept that it's in the nation's interest.
So would you propose the federal government build on basic necessities that then should be applied throughout the nation? Or what would you sort of propose?
Well, sadly, we really come up against the Constitution whenever you try to talk about that. And that is a document that is unchangeable.
It's evolving, but it's firm.
It evolved for a while, but,
under the current regime, it's a little difficult.
Well, it would require the majority vote in so many states. And, we just got the last state to vote on equal rights for women, and we can't get the federal government to ratify the Constitution for that. So the chances of us going beyond that, when that took, I think, from the 70s to now, maybe the 60s, I'm not sure. I don't think further evolution is really something we should bet on. We're going to have to figure out how to help ourselves within the current regime.
We have seen states act independently, self-help, shipping people from one state to another.
Yes.
People are showing up in suburban Vermont,
yes,
not knowing where they are, undocumented.
Yes.
Can we talk about this? This is something that I've written and talked about to some extent. I sense this isn't something that is talked about enough. I really want you to impress us with where we can go when it comes to this topic with the migrant crisis.
Well, a lot of academics have been talking about this for decades. And one of the things Dubai has that the United States doesn't have is we don't have a guest worker policy. And the United States hasn't really shown that they're very good at looking to the world for ideas. I think we're used to people looking to us for ideas, and I think it might be time for us to look to the world.
It's time.
And a guest worker policy, we know academically at least, would really help our borders, because people don't want to leave their families. They don't want to send their children across the border alone. They don't want to go for days with coyotes just so they can give birth in the United States. They don't actually want to do that. What they want is a living wage and then to support their families. And what we found is people actually want to work in the United States and go home. That's what they really want.
Absolutely.
And they can't do it because we don't have a guest worker policy.
Why is there so much discrimination when it comes to these people looking to come to the U.S. and help take on jobs? And quite frankly, some of these jobs are jobs that Americans with higher education don't want to do.
It's the evolution of immigration, right? My grandmother immigrated to the United States. Even though I'm African American and I know my descendancy back to the last slave family, my mother's side of the family were slaves in the Caribbean. So my grandmother's also an immigrant, as well as the family was a former slave. So I know what it's like to be African American, and I know what it's like to be an immigrant. And she came to the United States and cleaned families' homes. And then I went to Brown and Princeton. So I have the immigrant story in my family too. And the issue is that the United States has accidentally created a friction between legal immigrants and illegal immigrants. But we should be accountable for that. We should recognize that we created that friction, because a lot of the supporters of some of the anti-immigrant policies you've seen are coming from first-generation former immigrants. That
unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, but I think it's a challenge that we've made for ourselves. We created that friction by bifurcating the story when the story is really the same. Everyone comes to America for opportunity. That is true of absolutely everyone. And if you were born in America, someone in your family came to America for opportunity.
Without a doubt.
So that is the story, and we need to get back to that foundation. And how can we serve everyone equally that comes for the opportunity that is America? One of the things that came through Washington when VR first became available was an immigrant experience, an undocumented immigrant experience, where they turned an entire building into a border community. And you put on VR glasses, and they surrounded you with the smells and the touch. You had to go through barefoot, and the sound of the dogs. And I had our entire team go with their families so that they could understand the flip side of what we do. We help the EB-5 client, but behind the EB-5 client is someone with the same intentions, the same hopes, the same dreams, that isn't able to come to the United States. And what is that like? Because we're able to help one client, and we're not able to help this other person. But America, I think, would benefit if we helped all of them equally. And to that point, that leads me to a book that I've been meaning to write for years, but I swear I'm going to start this
Let's hear, okay.
And it's going to be a coffee table book, and
okay.
It's called This is America, and it's going to be just page after page of first-generation immigrant stories of entrepreneurs telling their own stories of how they came and how they built.
I would argue our migrant workers that are having to cross illegally, a lot of them are smuggled in, and they pay smugglers, and they pay coyotes and all these sorts of things. And believe me, all that comes at a cost.
And I think where you're finally going to get change is when the corporations that are taxed by the migrant crisis, the labor crisis that creates for them, and the consumer is taxed in their price by the crisis of the shortage of labor. When we come together to tell our elected officials, no more, no more. You have to solve this for us. You have to solve this immediately. And that's why you get a lot of, California is the 7th largest economy in the world by itself.
Greater than the country of India, greater than the United Kingdom, on par more or less with Germany. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, we often talk about how much we would really enjoy just being our own country. But in the absence of that, that is why I think you see some of the immigration leadership coming from there, and the environmental leadership, because the reason why we're such a large economy is our agriculture and our energy. And so we've been on the forefront of those labor problems in the agricultural sector. And we have Mexico as a solution. We have South America as a solution. And that's where I think you got sanctuary cities from and whatnot. Now, Texas doesn't have the same labor needs that California does. So it doesn't have the same uses for its migrant policy.
So we leave it back to the state.
There we go. And then we go back to states' rights. And states' rights, unfortunately, goes back to post-Civil War, trying to keep the Union together, and some of the compromises that don't scale.
You brought up a notion that I haven't thought about. Yes, we have a conflict between the state and the federal government, but private enterprise can be doing more because ultimately they benefit as well from...
The leadership will come from the private sector, because the private sector really is the consumer and the provider. And that is, we are the ones that are feeling the pain of the lack of government solutions.
Should corporations be doing more? I mean, Walmart undoubtedly is, one of the most prolific, well-known organizations within the U.S. However, their employees are some of the ones that are using a lot of government assistance in terms of, whether it comes to food vouchers or X, Y, and Z. So what's happening here?
Well, you have to blame the consumer for that, because we as a consumer require a certain price point from Walmart. And in order for them to meet the consumer price point, they can't pay the wages.
Or is it globalization and capitalism? Because if we can't provide that for the consumer, now we've created an environment where they can just reach abroad.
Well, we certainly reach abroad for the manufacturing of them, for sure. But soon we'll be able to reach abroad and not even have to go to Walmart, and you see it with Temu and whatnot. But now you're coming to one of my favorite topics as a futurist, which is the untethering of the wage from the cost of living. And so the wage is no longer supporting the things that we consider basic. The wage is not supporting housing. It's not supporting food. It's not supporting education. It's just not supporting what we consider as basic. And you've seen local governments try to mandate a living wage. They've mandated a minimum wage. Almost every state mandates a living wage, depending on what they think it should be, right? So now you have people, like a McDonald's Happy Meals, like $10 now or something crazy like that because of the minimum wage. And what does McDonald's do? It gives you kiosks. Said, okay, right. You want us to have a minimum wage? Right. Well, then we'll just have half as many humans. That's what we'll do. And so I think you're going to see that in all companies, right? And so the truth of the matter is, and companies have futurists, but governments don't. Dubai has a futurist, but no American government has a futurist, but American companies do. And what you're seeing is the truth of the matter, which is the wage doesn't support housing. And so we have to stop making 4-year solutions with our politicians. We have to make 50-year solutions. We have to make 100-year solutions. And until we have an honest conversation with ourselves that the wage does not support the expectation of our humanity, then I don't think we're going to solve it, because corporations aren't going to solve it. Because if corporations try and solve it with a wage, then you and I pay for it as a consumer.
So, you had the privilege of, going to Princeton and also Brown University, and you sit on the board of trustees at Brown.
I do.
Are these...
And I'm chair of the real estate committee. Okay. Just to bring it
What
home.
are the topics, within these,
hollowed walls,
circles that not everyone has privy to be a part? What are some of the topics that you guys are talking about? You're a futurist. You like to plan and foresee and foretell what might come about. So
I can tell you some of the things I'm most proud of. So when I joined the board, I was elected to the board. Most people are appointed to the board, so I was very proud that my fellow alum of all years elected me to be their representative. So when I'm in the room, I'm constantly aware of the fact that I'm actually representing the people who elected me, right? Just like a politician should be. So the first thing we did, and I had a big role in this, is we made we funded international need blind. So we voted on it as a corporation, and then within a record amount of time, we were able to fundraise enough money for our endowment so that we can finally admit international students that are qualified with a full ride, total tuition assistance. So now anyone has access to Brown, and we're only one of 8 schools in the United States that's international need blind. So need blind means that if you are qualified to be admitted, we will meet your financial need. It doesn't matter what your financial capability is.
For the most qualified.
If you're admitted, we will pay for it.
If you're admitted, okay.
If you're admitted, we will pay for it. And it's, we're up to almost $70,000 a year now in tuition and room and board, and we will pay for it.
Which is actually pennies for some of these institutions. Harvard has an endowment of over $50 billion, so why are people paying tuitions to begin with?
Harvard's not Brown. Let's just put it that way. We're one of the poorest Ivies, but we will pay for you because we believe, we have some very strong values at Brown, and I'm very representative of what a typical person is like who has gone to Brown. And we could not be more proud. And, we have Palestinians on our board, we have Muslims on our board, we have Jewish people on our board. We have one of the most diverse boards of any Ivy League. And we're very proud of the way that we engage in discourse. We're very proud of the breadth of students that choose the institution, and we're going to continue to be that place. And being international need blind is a very large component of maintaining those values.
It's actually very selfless, saying that you don't necessarily have to be an American to get this ultimate benefit.
No, because we're globally minded, right? Like we're here to better humanity, not American humanity.
Not humanity. One life is somehow more valuable than the next.
No life is more valuable than the next.
Okay, well, we've got 2 more segments. I can go on forever, but this is actually running longer than normally anticipated, but I'm having such a great time here. So normally we do rapid roundup. We do this early on in the segment to kind of break the ice, but that was unnecessary. Mm-hmm. And with that, I've got a list of questions for you.
Oh boy.
We've got 60 seconds.
Okay.
And it's got to be rapid fire. So if we can get the timer
How long do I have to answer each question?
Oh, it's like Family Feud. It's like immediate.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, because we got to get through all these questions or else we fail in life.
In 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Okay, are we ready? And the timer is off. By the way, caveat, I didn't come up with these questions, so...
Oh, you're not going to claim them? No. Okay.
Nothing is under my control ever. What was your favorite age so far?
14.
If you were to write a book, what would it be called?
No Ways Tired.
What conspiracy theory do you believe is real?
Maybe the Rothschilds.
Ouch. If you had all the money in the world, what would you do with it?
I would alleviate hunger. I would make sure every animal had a home and everyone had equal education.
Name 3 historical figures that you would have dinner with.
Lincoln, Hamilton, Joan of Arc.
Wow. What is the most boring thing ever? What do you find boring?
Golf.
A trend you find annoying.
Social media.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Pralines and cream.
This question you might not like. Strangest food you've ever tried? Nothing is really strange, right? But if you were to answer this, what would it be?
It would be bird saliva.
I didn't even know that's a thing.
There you go.
That's the beauty of EB-5. We travel the world. And we get exposed to different cultures.
Yep.
Amazing. What a chat it's been. There's so many more topics. I wanted to talk about COP28 and Dubai and the future of that.
We can do a part 2.
Maybe we'll do a part 2.
I mean, if I can, I would feel very honored that you would bring me back. So on your schedule, if you think it's worth it.
We got you in once. You have a book coming up.
Yeah, I do.
And so we're going to find ways to pull you in.
Okay,
and to visit this cool city and to have some good chats.
I hope that was fun for you guys.
We liked it. Thank you.
Yeah? Okay, good.
Awesome. Thank you.
Wonderful.